Good evening, my squires. Tonight's scroll is written by the hand of Let Me Ask You, and it is titled, I Love the Water. I'll start this out by saying that I enjoy swimming. If I am ever in a pool, I will stay in there for hours. I don't know what it is with me and water, but I love it. Even if I go to the lake, I love swimming there and can stay just as long as I do in a pool. In 2017, I was visiting friends in Biloxi, Mississippi. We went to the beach to relax and have fun. We had some barbecue, tossed the disc, and just had general beach fun. Now I just told you that I love the water, pools, lakes, puddles, etc. The exception to my love for the water comes down to the ocean. I have a deep-seated fear of the ocean. I don't know what it stems from, but I only went up to my knees the whole time I was in the water at the beach because I'm a huge chicken. Dusk was approaching, and as we were about to leave the beach, I thought I would just fall back into the ocean to get fully wet, then get up and leave. So, I closed my eyes, held my nose, and fell back. I felt like I was going to black out, so I quickly got my head above the surface before that happened. But when I got to the surface, it was dark out, and I was facing away from the beach. So, I spun around, only to find that the beach behind me had disappeared. I didn't see any land. I was in the middle of the ocean, at night, with no hope of rescue. My biggest fear was just realized. I immediately understood the gravity of the situation that I was in and felt totally helpless and didn't know what to do. The logical thought is to start swimming for shore, but I had no idea which direction shore was in. I knew that I could just as easily swim away from shore as I could to it. Gradually, I started to hear and feel a very low hum. I was already filled with dread, but that low hum made it even worse. By this time, it was pitch black out. I was so terrified that I had not only resigned myself to the fact that I was going to die, but, in fact, I had wished for immediate death rather than going through the final moments of my life in pure, unadulterated fear. My body or mind couldn't handle the situation that I was in, so I passed out. The next thing I know, I'm waking up to something hitting me on the top of my back. I realized that I was being gently tossed against one of the towers of an oil rig by the waves. At this point, I was exhausted and still very frightened, but I saw some semblance of humanity and I was going to try to make the best I could of it. The moon was just barely shining on this massive structure, but I was eventually able to find the stairs to get onto the rig and out of my nightmare. I climbed to the top of the stairs with all my might because I didn't want to take the chance of resting near the bottom and being swept away again. At the top, I collapsed onto the hard steel surface and fell asleep from exhaustion. I was awakened by the sound of seagulls screeching high above me. My whole body just felt gross. I was scratching around on my head and picked off what I thought was a spot of dry blood. It wasn't dry blood. What I had picked off my head was lodged under my nail. When I went to clear it, I was astonished to see and feel it shoot up into my nail, up my finger and up my arm. It didn't hurt, it just felt like liquid running through my body. I am ashamed to admit that when I saw this happen, I let out a little screech of horror. Since I wasn't in pain from what happened, I started to look for people. Now that I had some rest, it was time to get help. But I realized that since no one had bothered to wake me up, that this rig must have been abandoned. It was dawn, and I began my search to see what I could find to get in contact with the outside world. In the initial stages of my search, My stomach told me that it was time to eat. I'd never felt that type of hunger before or since. So I tried to find the kitchen to see if something had been left behind that would be edible. I searched for hours before I was able to find the mess hall. Even though it was daylight at this point, it was pitch black inside the rooms I was searching. I didn't have any light with me and had to feel my way around. As I felt my way around from room to room, I opened cabinets, felt shelves, and this is when I found two glorious cans. One of them had an odd shape to it, and when I got to the light, it was confirmed to be one of my least favorite foods, Spam. For a millisecond, just a millisecond, I thought about going back into the ocean. The other can was green beans. Still not one of my favorites, but not as bad as Spam. I ate what I had because beggars can't be choosers, right? I wasn't able to find any clean water, and I was thirsty, so very thirsty. Now that the pain from my stomach was gone, I had to keep looking around. I was hoping and praying for a flare gun, something that could let someone know that I was on this man-made deserted island. I'd been searching for half of the day and still hadn't found any type of flare gun. I was getting tired, but I wanted to check one more room before I tried to sleep. As I felt around the room, I felt a little hope spring up in me because I was feeling a lot of monitors, those old, heavy CRT monitors and other various electronic feeling things. As I felt around, my heart filled with joy as I picked up what I thought to be a flashlight. It was a flashlight, and it worked. I could see glorious light in this once pitch-black room. I could see all kinds of goodies in this room. More flashlights, radios, of course no use to me since there was no power. And the most beautiful thing that I ever saw in my entire life, an emergency transponder. With my newfound light, I read the instructions, pulled the tab, and switched it on. Beeping never sounded so beautiful. I secured the transponder outside to make sure the signal was getting out there. The temperature outside started to drop as the moon chased away the sun. I found what seemed to be the warmest room and decided to close my eyes there for the night. I don't know the amount of time I was out, but it wasn't very long. I started hearing that humming again. This time, it got louder and louder and louder until it was unbearable and I had to cover my ears. Whatever was causing the humming slammed into the oil rig, causing the whole thing to tilt to an uncomfortable degree. Now this massive structure was swaying from side to side as if it was a toy boat in a child's pool. The only thing that I could imagine might have caused this kind of assault would be an aircraft carrier, most likely damaged now. I thought and hoped that I would be rescued. My delusion had been short-lived when I looked around the outside to see nothing resembling a ship. I returned to the room to try to rest again. Just when the rig had settled down, the loud humming returned, and it was struck again. I had to see what was striking the rig and causing it to move so violently. As I suspected, the humming was returning. Whatever this thing was intent on sinking this oil rig. As the noise got louder and louder, I saw the black void that was the ocean become illuminated by something 5 times as wide as the rig itself. If I wasn't so terrified, it would have been beautiful. The blue and green speckled illumination of this sea beast was striking, but at the same time, this thing was trying to kill me. After the second blow, that thing was tilting badly, and if it wasn't sinking then the next blow from that thing would surely take it down. Sure enough, it struck again. The same results, tilting and swaying. This time, though, when the swaying stopped, the rig was not returning to its normal level state. I didn't hear the humming return for the rest of the night. That thing, that beast, knew that it had done its job. Dawn was approaching, and the rig was sinking and nearly fully submerged when, to my surprise, I heard a helicopter off in the distance. I jumped off of the rail as the last remnants of the rig were finally covered in water and on the way down to its watery grave. Here I was again, in the middle of the ocean, scared as can be. As the rescuers dropped the basket to me, I started to hear that low hum again. It was getting closer and louder. As I neared the top of the rope into the helicopter, the look on the rescuer's face told me everything he was seeing. Suddenly, the helicopter jerked even higher, and I was left out in the basket swinging about as we tried to get away from whatever that thing was that was causing the humming. I didn't get a better look at the beast because I was too focused on hanging onto the basket and not meeting that thing face to face. When I was returned to land, I was feeling worse and worse. I went to the hospital where the docs said that there was some anomalies in my blood work that required further study. I was dehydrated and very hungry, so I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days. After I was discharged, I went home and tried to forget this whole ordeal. It's been nearly 3 years since all of this happened, and my health seems to be getting worse. Now, I'm starting to ooze black goo out of my eyes, ears, nose, and even my mouth. The taste is so horrific. Day by day, I'm feeling less and less like myself. My fear of the ocean is now gone. Funny enough, I feel like the ocean is my home. Luckily, I'm on my way to see my friends in Biloxi again. Due to my new condition, I am driving there, of course. I will be there in a few hours, but I think I will go see the beach before I meet up with my friends. I want to sincerely thank all of you for listening to this narration. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Enjoy your sleep, if you can.